What is my whiskey of the year for 2024? I'm Jeff. This is Gwhisky. Stick around. Okay, so we've reached the big one. This is my whiskey of the year video. I've been building up to this one for a while. Some might even say that I've been milking these end of year video concepts for my own benefit, to which I would say that that is utterly and unequivocally correct. Like, I don't know who some of you think you're watching, but this is not Ralphie or Aquavite. This is not a dignified channel. I want money. I want those clicks. Too soon. I want that cheddar. Unfortunately for me, though, the party does eventually have to come to an end, and we're going to cap off our end of year videos with today's. And as I said, it's the big one. It's whiskey of the year. Don't worry though, that does not mean the end of Gwhisky lists. There's always more Gwhisky lists coming down the pipeline. So stay tuned for videos like top 5 Gwhisky top 5 videos and top 10 whiskeys that I think a pterodactyl would enjoy. Anyway, let's not stretch out this intro too long. For the rules, maximum $100 US, and it had to be delicious. The whiskey that I chose, I think, is one of the best new additions to the budget-friendly whiskey scene. It only came out last year in 2023. What I'm drinking is Glenglassaugh Sandend. This is not a whiskey that I was expecting to love, but in the year since it's come out, my friends and I together have gone through, I believe, 3 bottles so far, and it's just one that I'm always happy to replace on the shelf. And I was actually quite skeptical of this whiskey before I bought it, because Glenglassaugh came out with 3 whiskeys at the same time last year when they revamped their core range, and this is the 3rd one that I tried. I tried the other 2 first. I first had the 12-year-old, which is matured in bourbon, sherry, and red wine casks, and then I had the Portsoy, which is a peated whiskey that's matured in sherry, bourbon, and port casks. And listen, I like those whiskeys. I thought they were legitimately good, but they didn't blow me away. And because I didn't really feel that strongly about them, I did push off buying Sandend for a little while. I'd walk past the shop. I did tell myself I'd get around to it eventually, but yeah, earlier this year, buddy comes by, he brings a bottle of Sandend with him. I said, okay, let's try it, and man, right away, loved it. Anyway, for maturation, we've got bourbon, sherry, and manzanilla casks in the mix here. This was put together by Rachel Barry, who's been the master blender at Glenglassaugh since 2017. And what's funny is, even just a couple years ago, nobody was talking about Glenglassaugh. They did have some whiskeys out. Some of them were decent, but really nothing special in my opinion. I think the brand was still trying to find their footing after being mothballed between 1986 and 2008. And for the longest time, Glenglassaugh was the black sheep of the family, while its sister distilleries enjoyed pretty much all of the spotlight. You had Glendronach that catered to sherry lovers, extremely popular whiskey. You had Benriach, which was very prolific and relatively popular. Meanwhile, nobody was really talking about these guys. They were not on the radar. Until last year when they revamped the brand, which naturally saw renewed interest in them. And I think since then, the lineup has been pretty well received, the 3 new whiskeys they put out. But for me, the clear standout has been this one. And apparently, I'm not alone, because Whiskey Advocate, which is a whiskey magazine, named this as their whiskey of the year last year. So it's not without traction. There are people talking about it. But for me, I haven't seen too much hype or too much enthusiasm from the online community, and certainly not very much from YouTube. Maybe it's there, but I just missed it. Which is possible, because honestly, I don't watch very much WhiskyTube. I mostly just watch myself for a few reasons there. I tend to agree with the host. I think he's smart, charming, handsome, makes a lot of great points, and really, he's the best presenter on WhiskyTube, because who else are you gonna watch? This guy? Like, what is he even saying?
Yeah, bloody sweet as, bro. Chew boy, got my whiskey, chili burn, tog, bloody jeef, just bloody swamp donkey. I'm just gonna have a sip of my whiskey.
Anyway, back to our Sandend. Now, I have reviewed this before on the channel. I really liked it. I gave it a score of 87. So I do want to come back to it and re-review it and see if that 87 holds up. Let's see where we land on it today. So let's jump into it. In the meantime, if you'll kindly leave a like down below, that'd be greatly appreciated. Okay, for our specs, this gives us a nice 50.5% ABV, so a little bit generous there. This should be fully natural. Now, I can't confirm that officially, but I will give them the benefit of the doubt and say that they're non-chill filtered and natural color. Okay, so for look of the bottle, I think this looks very good. I know it's not going to be to everyone's taste. It's definitely very modern. It does not lean traditional at all, but I like the interesting color palette with a mint green. I like the bottle shape. It works for me. We'll give it 4 out of 5. This does not say non-chill filtered or natural color, unfortunately. It does give us some very basic tasting notes, and we do get the cask breakdown here. So not all the info we need, but there is some, and the bottle does look cool. On the nose, this gives us a full nose of thick vanilla and zingy fruits. I get white grapes, I get mango, tangerine, custard apple. There's pineapple in here. There's also gentle salinity in here, like salted butter. It's slightly coastal. I get notes like white pepper. There's some tablet in here. This is very rich and very lively. The palate and finish give us some beautiful fresh fruits here. There's white grapes again, there's guava, tangerine, pineapple, and there's a pretty strong ginger ale note to this. And here's a fun note for you. I get gummy bears in this. More specifically, the yellow one and the orange one. And you know what? Throw in the white one too. He's in there too. Finally, we get butter, buttered popcorn, white pepper, and some sweet red fruits from the sherry and the manzanilla casks. Medium finish. So, how do I feel about my whiskey of the year? Well, as it turns out, I really like it. In fact, me really liking it, huge part of the decision-making process. Still, I do kind of want to elaborate on why I like this so much, and right out the gate, this is not like the most dramatic, mind-blowing whiskey you've ever had. It's not dropping a bomb on everything you thought you knew about whiskey. It's not reinventing the wheel. It's a classic, well-made whiskey. It's about the execution. I think this gives us an excellent character because it does feel traditional enough that it'll be familiar to people who love their Highland whiskeys and their coastal whiskeys, but it's also fun and interesting and unique enough that it's still an engaging experience. And I think a lot of people out there will enjoy this one. I think there's going to be some of you that absolutely love it. There's going to be some of you that like it. I can't imagine too many of you outright hating this stuff. Some of you might say it's a little bit too tangy or too zingy, too much of a white pepper kick. That's possible, but it does have pretty broad appeal. In fact, I would say this is probably my whiskey of the year so far that has the most broad appeal, because we're going up against stuff like the classic Laddie, Lagavulin 8, and Craigellachie 13, which are all excellent whiskeys, but they can be more divisive. Meanwhile, this one is pretty easy to like. It's fruity, it's buttery, it's gingery. We get some coastal elements, we get some tangy, fruity elements, we get some candied gummy bear elements. There's just lots of fun stuff in this one. Another thing I love about this whiskey is the cask influence. I think it's masterfully done. I would say of all the casks in here, the bourbon is probably the most prominent. We do get plenty of vanilla and oak in here. As for the sherry and the manzanilla casks, they are in here. Their influence is in here. They've added some flavor. They've added some complexity, but they're not dominating here. They're not overwhelming any of the core flavors. And listen, don't get me wrong. Just because I said none of the casks outright dominate the profile doesn't mean that this isn't primarily a cask-driven whiskey. This is not some gentle, delicate, refill bourbon matured, distillate-driven whiskey. Yes, we do get some distillate in here, but the casks are casking. And that's not a bad thing. I do like my delicate, distillate-driven whiskeys, but a good quality, well-executed cask influence is crucial to any whiskey. This has that. This whiskey just clicks. It's Moorish, it's lively, it's rich, it hits the spot. For me, I'm going to score this one an 88. So there you have it. I think this is one of the best new affordable whiskeys on the scene right now. I think it's absolutely delicious stuff. I think it's the best of the current Glenglassaugh range, and it's something you should check out if you haven't. So number, I'm not doing a list. 2024 Whiskey of the Year, Glenglassaugh Sandend. Now, before we talk about value, I just want to say a quick thank you to all my patrons and channel members. And if you want to help out, I have both Patreon and PayPal linked down below. And if you're already supporting, thank you very much. Now, let's talk about price and see if this one's worth it. It is. So, like so many other whiskeys out there, the price on this is not consistent and it varies between markets. For example, in my market, this sells for about $45 US, which is exceptional value. If you check the big online UK retailers, this goes for approximately 60 US. And if you go to places like Canada and some states in the United States, it can sell for as high as 75. Now, obviously, the lower the better, but I don't think any of those prices are completely unreasonable for the quality you're getting. And if the description sounds interesting to you, even at the higher end, I do think this is worth picking up once because I just think it's a phenomenal whiskey. And like I said, it's got that broad appeal. So check it out. All right, that's the end of the video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. And I am very curious to hear your thoughts on this one. So have you tried Glenglassaugh Sandend? How much did you pay? What did you think about it? And how do you feel about me choosing it as my whiskey of the year? Do you agree? disagree, somewhere in between. Let me know all of that down below. Finally, as I said, I've got Patreon and PayPal linked down below. And I guess that's it. That's the whole spiel. We'll see you next time. Bye, guys.